What happens when an entire galactic civilization makes the fatal mistake of judging a species by their appearance rather than their potential? When the most powerful beings in the universe dismiss humanity as primitive, weak, and utterly insignificant. The Galactic Council had ruled for 10,000 years, watching species rise and fall like waves on cosmic shores. They had seen warriors, diplomats, and scholars from a million worlds. But when humans first stumbled into their domain, small, soft-skinned, technologically backward, the Council did something they had never done before. They laughed. It was the kind of dismissive, condescending laughter that echoes through history. The kind that marks the moment before everything changes forever. Because while the Council was busy underestimating humanity, they failed to notice the one thing that would reshape the galaxy. Humans don't just adapt. They excel. They don't just survive. They thrive. And when pushed to their limits, they don't break. They become something the universe has never seen before. This is the story of how the most underestimated species in galactic history became the reason why an entire universe learned to hold its breath. Because when humans finally revealed what they were truly capable of, even the stars themselves would never be the same. Ambassador Sarah Chun stood in the vast crystalline chamber of the Galactic Council, her small human frame dwarfed by the towering alien delegates surrounding her. The chamber itself was a marvel of engineering that defied human understanding. Walls of living crystal that shifted and pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, floors that seemed to float in midair, and a ceiling that opened directly to the cosmic void where distant stars twinkled like forgotten diamonds. The council members lounged on their elevated platforms, each species more intimidating than the last. To her left, the Thackeray delegation resembled massive stone gargoyles, their granite-like skin etched with ancient runes that glowed with internal fire. Their leader, High Consul Vorthak, stood nearly 12 feet tall, with arms thick as tree trunks and eyes that burned like molten gold. When he breathed, small flames escaped his nostrils, and the very air around him shimmered with heat. On her right, the ethereal collective floated in their containment pods, beings of pure energy whose forms shifted between various states of matter. Their spokesman, if the term could be applied to something without a fixed form, communicated through harmonic vibrations that made the crystal walls sing with otherworldly melodies. They had evolved beyond physical form millions of years ago and considered themselves the pinnacle of galactic evolution. Behind them, the Zephyrian delegates stretched their massive wingspan, each creature resembling a cross between a dragon and an eagle, with metallic feathers that caught and reflected light in impossible ways. Their hollow bones made them impossibly light despite their enormous size, and their 4 eyes could see across multiple spectrums simultaneously. They had mastered flight between stars without technology, using only their biological capabilities to surf solar winds across the galaxy. The mechanical collective occupied the far corner, their representatives consisting of gleaming robots and cybernetic beings who had transcended organic limitations centuries ago. Their bodies were works of art in metal and light, with processing cores that could calculate the trajectories of entire solar systems in mere seconds. They spoke in mathematical harmonics and viewed the universe through the lens of pure logic and efficiency. In the center of it all sat the Council's most ancient member, Elder Omnar Keldthor of the Cosmic Hierarchy. His species had achieved immortality when Earth's sun was still a young star learning to burn. His body was translucent, revealing internal organs that functioned on principles beyond current scientific understanding. Veins of starlight ran through his form, and when he spoke, his voice carried the weight of eons. Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the weight of representing her entire species. The message from Earth had been clear: secure humanity's place in the galactic community at any cost. The discovery of faster-than-light travel had opened the universe to mankind, but it had also revealed that they were newcomers to a cosmic civilization that had been thriving for millennia. So, Elder Keldthor began, his voice resonating through the chamber like distant thunder. These are the humans we have heard whispers about, the newest species to achieve interstellar capability. High Consul Vorthak leaned forward on his platform, studying Sarah with the intensity of a predator evaluating prey. They are smaller than expected. How tall are you, human? 5 feet, 6 inches in our measurement system, Sarah replied, maintaining her composure despite feeling like an ant addressing giants. A sound erupted from the Thackeray delegation that Sarah realized was laughter, deep, rumbling, and filled with genuine amusement. Barely half the height of our younglings. Vorthak chuckled, flames dancing around his massive form. Tell me, little one, how does your species expect to contribute to galactic civilization when you cannot even reach the lower shelves in our libraries? The ethereal collective's harmonic laughter created a symphony of condescending notes that made the chamber's crystals ring with mock melody. Their spokesperson's energy form shifted to what Sarah interpreted as amusement. Physical stature aside, the being communicated through vibrations. What technological marvels do humans bring to our collective knowledge? What scientific breakthroughs? What artistic achievements worthy of galactic recognition? Sarah straightened her shoulders, drawing upon every diplomatic training session she had endured. Humans bring unique perspectives to problem solving. Our species has demonstrated remarkable adaptability and creativity in overcoming challenges. We've achieved spaceflight despite having no natural advantages, developed complex societies across diverse environments, and created art that speaks to universal themes of hope, love, and perseverance. The Zephyrian delegates, 4 eyes focused on her with laser-like intensity. Adaptability, it screeched, its voice like wind through metal. We can survive in the vacuum of space without protection. The Thackeray can withstand the heat of stellar coronas. The ethereals exist beyond physical limitations entirely. What can humans adapt to that others cannot surpass? We adapt not just our bodies, but our thinking, Sarah replied. Humans excel at finding solutions others might overlook because we approach problems from multiple angles simultaneously. We combine logic with intuition, science with creativity, individual brilliance with collective effort. This provoked another round of laughter from the assembled delegates. The mechanical collective's representative, a gleaming android whose optical sensors glowed with calculated amusement, spoke in perfectly modulated tones. Logic without superior processing power is merely wishful thinking. Creativity without advanced computational support is random chaos. Your species has achieved basic interstellar travel, but your ships are primitive, your weapons are crude, and your understanding of cosmic forces is elementary. Elder Keldthor raised one translucent hand, and the chamber fell silent with reverence. Perhaps we are being too harsh, he said, though his tone suggested otherwise. Every species has its place in the cosmic order. The Glorthians serve as excellent janitors for our space stations. The Makari make adequate food preparers. I am certain humans will find their appropriate niche in our civilization. Sarah felt heat rising in her cheeks, but forced herself to remain diplomatic. With respect, Elder, I believe humans have more to offer than service positions. Our history shows that when challenged, humans consistently exceed expectations. We've survived ice ages, global wars, natural disasters, and social upheavals that would have destroyed other species. Survival is the minimum requirement for spacefaring status. Vorthak rumbled dismissively. It hardly qualifies as an achievement worthy of council recognition. The ethereal collective's spokesperson shifted its energy pattern to something Sarah interpreted as barely contained mirth. Tell us, human representative, what is your species' greatest military victory? What enemy have you defeated that would impress beings who have conquered star systems? Sarah paused, realizing that humanity's greatest conflicts have been against themselves and natural disasters rather than alien threats. Our greatest victories have been against seemingly impossible odds. We've overcome diseases that threatened to extinct us, survived asteroid impacts, rebuilt entire civilizations from ruins, and consistently found ways to thrive in environments that should have killed us. How charmingly provincial, the Zephyrian delegate commented, preening its metallic feathers with obvious superiority. While you were fighting diseases and weather, we were establishing trade routes between galaxies. The laughter that followed was no longer even attempting to be polite. Sarah watched as beings who commanded the forces of stars and planets found humor in humanity's humble beginnings. The Thackeray delegation roared with amusement, their flames growing brighter. The ethereals created a symphony of mocking harmonics that made the chamber walls pulse with derision. Even the logical mechanical collective seemed to find calculated humor in the situation. Elder Keldthor gestured for silence, though his own expression carried clear amusement. I believe we have heard enough for today. The Council will deliberate on humanity's application for membership. You may wait in the anteroom while we discuss your species' potential contributions. As Sarah was escorted toward the exit by a floating drone, she heard Vorthak's voice boom behind her. Perhaps we should establish a petting zoo for them. They are quite amusing in their earnestness. The renewed laughter followed her out of the chamber, echoing off the crystal walls like a prophecy of things to come. Sarah had never felt smaller or more insignificant, but something deep inside her burned with determination. The Council saw humans as amusing pets, curiosities to be patronized and dismissed. They had made their judgment based on appearance, technology levels, and current capabilities without considering potential. It was, she reflected as the chamber door sealed behind her with finality, exactly the kind of mistake that humans had learned to exploit throughout their entire history. In the anteroom, Sarah activated her communicator and sent an encrypted message back to Earth. Council reception as expected. Proceeding to Phase 2 of Contact Protocol. Recommend Operation Pandora's Box be placed on standby status. She had no way of knowing that her message would mark the beginning of the greatest shift in galactic power the universe had ever witnessed. The Council had laughed at humans, dismissing them as insignificant newcomers to a cosmic stage dominated by ancient powers and advanced civilizations. It would not be laughing for much longer. 3 months after Ambassador Chen's humiliating reception at the Galactic Council, the first signs of change began appearing across the galaxy. It started small, almost unnoticeable to the ancient powers who govern the cosmic community. Trade disputes in the Outer Rim territories were being resolved with unprecedented efficiency. Pirate attacks along major shipping lanes had virtually ceased. Minor rebellions that had simmered for decades were suddenly ending in negotiated settlements that satisfied all parties involved. On the crystalline world of Nexus Prime, the Council's administrative center, these developments were initially dismissed as statistical anomalies. Elder Keldthor reviewed the reports with the casual interest of someone who had witnessed 10,000 years of galactic politics. Periodic fluctuations in conflict were natural, expected even. What he failed to recognize was the common thread running through each resolution: human involvement. Dr. Marcus Webb stood on the observation deck of the research station orbiting Kethmorta 7, watching teams of human scientists work alongside Zephyrian researchers in the planet's upper atmosphere. The mission had been sold to the Council as a joint atmospheric study, a harmless opportunity for the newest galactic members to observe advanced scientific methods. What the Council didn't know was that humans had volunteered for the assignment specifically because the Zephyrians had been struggling with atmospheric anomalies that threatened their entire civilization. Initial data confirms our hypothesis, Dr. Webb reported to his colleague, Dr. Lisa Park, who monitored readouts from their concealed scanning equipment. The atmospheric disturbance isn't random weather patterns, as the Zephyrians assumed. It's a resonance cascade triggered by their own sonic communication methods interacting with the planet's magnetic field. Dr. Park nodded, her fingers dancing across holographic displays that showed complex mathematical models. The frequency patterns they use for long-range communication have been gradually destabilizing their atmospheric chemistry for over a century. They never noticed because the effect was so gradual and they lacked the perspective to see the larger pattern. Through the observation window, they could see Zephyrian scientists struggling with instruments designed for their specific physiology. Their metal-feathered wings, perfect for riding solar winds between stars, made delicate equipment manipulation nearly impossible. Their four-dimensional vision, which allowed them to navigate complex space environments, actually hindered them when focusing on singular data streams. Should we tell them directly? Dr. Park asked. Dr. Webb shook his head. Not yet. We need to guide them to the discovery themselves. If we simply provide the answer, they'll dismiss it as primitive thinking from an inferior species. But if they reach the conclusion through their own methods with our subtle guidance, this approach had become the foundation of human diplomatic strategy across dozens of worlds. Rather than attempting to impress other species with technological superiority or military might, humans focused on understanding and solving problems that had plagued galactic civilizations for generations. They did so quietly, carefully, always ensuring that credit went to the species they assisted. On the trading world of Metsalon Station, Captain Rosa Martinez negotiated the release of hostages taken by Glorthian separatists. The situation had stumped council mediators for weeks because they approached it as a traditional territorial dispute. Rosa recognized it for what it really was, a cry for attention from species that felt ignored and undervalued by the galactic community. You've been asking for better representation in council decisions for over 50 years, Rosa said to the Glorthian leader, a being that resembled a cross between a bear and a tree with bark-like skin and eyes that held ancient sadness. But you've been asking in the wrong language. The Glorthian chieftain, Grootmar, shifted his massive form with confusion. We have followed all proper diplomatic protocols. We have submitted formal petitions, attended all required hearings, provided documentation of our grievances. That's exactly the problem, Rosa explained gently. You've been playing by their rules, speaking their language, following their procedures. But the Council doesn't see you as equals to be negotiated with. They see you as subjects to be managed. She gestured toward the station's main viewport, where the Galactic Council's flagship hung in space like a crystal cathedral. Look at that ship. Every line, every surface is designed to inspire awe and submission. The Council chambers are built to make visitors feel small and insignificant. Even their diplomatic protocols are designed to emphasize hierarchy and power differences. Grootmar's ancient eyes narrowed with growing understanding. You suggest we abandon diplomatic channels entirely? I suggest you change the game instead of playing theirs, Rosa replied. What does your species do better than anyone else in the galaxy? We are the finest craftspeople known to galactic civilization, Grootmar said with quiet pride. Our artwork adorns the private collections of every major species. Our engineering capabilities have built structures that last for millennia. Then stop begging for recognition and start demonstrating why you deserve it, Rosa suggested. The Council doesn't take seriously those who ask for respect. They respect those who command it through excellence. Within days, the Glorthian separatists had released their hostages and announced a new strategy. Instead of political protests, they would create a masterwork so magnificent that the entire galaxy would have to acknowledge their contributions. The hostage crisis dissolved as the separatists channeled their frustration into productive artistic expression, and Rosa quietly arranged for their project to receive financial backing from human investors. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. Human anthropologist Dr. James Liu spent months with the Crystalline Collective, helping them understand why their attempts at cultural exchange consistently failed with organic species. The problem wasn't cultural differences. It was that crystalline beings communicated through harmonic resonances that most organic species experienced as painful or disorienting. Your thoughts are literally music to each other, Dr. Liu explained to the collective's ambassador, a being whose body resembled a living cathedral of singing crystal. But when you try to communicate with organic species, you're essentially shouting at frequencies that cause us physical discomfort. It's like trying to have a conversation with someone who communicates entirely through fire sirens. The collective had spent centuries frustrated by their inability to form meaningful relationships with other species, attributing it to prejudice against their unusual nature. Dr. Liu helped them develop translation devices that converted their harmonic thoughts into more palatable forms of communication, opening up diplomatic channels that have been closed for millennia. Back on Earth, Director General Patricia Hoffman received encrypted reports from human teams scattered across the galaxy. Each report detailed successful interventions, solved problems, and growing influence among previously dismissive species. The pattern was exactly what Earth's leadership had hoped for when they developed their long-term strategy for galactic integration. Phase 1 is proceeding ahead of schedule, she reported to the Global Defense Council in a secure underground facility beneath Geneva. Our teams have successfully established positive relationships with 47 different species, resolved 18 major diplomatic crises, and positioned humanity as problem solvers rather than supplicants. General Harrison Clark, Earth's highest-ranking military officer, studied holographic displays showing human positions throughout the galaxy. What about Phase 2 preparations? All assets are in place, Director Hoffman confirmed. Our research teams have identified critical vulnerabilities in every major galactic power. Not weaknesses to exploit, but problems to solve. The Thackeray home system is experiencing mineral depletion that will cripple their civilization within a century. The ethereal collective's energy forms are slowly degrading due to cosmic background radiation changes. The mechanical collective faces a computer virus that could corrupt their entire network. And the Council? General Clark asked. Director Hoffman's expression grew serious. The Council itself is the biggest problem of all. Their system of governance hasn't evolved in 10,000 years because they've never faced a challenge that required adaptation. They rule through intimidation and tradition, but they've never been tested by an opponent who thinks differently than they do. Dr. Emily Foster, Earth's chief xenopsychologist, stepped forward. Every species in the Council achieved galactic dominance through some form of superiority, physical power, technological advancement, or evolutionary specialization. They understand competition for resources, territorial conflicts, and hierarchical dominance. What they don't understand is cooperative problem-solving, adaptive thinking, or distributed intelligence. Which is exactly why Ambassador Chen's initial meeting went as planned, Director Hoffman added. We needed them to underestimate us completely. Their laughter and dismissal was the best possible outcome because it ensured they wouldn't pay attention to our real activities. Meanwhile, aboard the Council's flagship, Elder Keldthor was beginning to notice disturbing patterns in the galactic reports crossing his desk. Minor problems that had persisted for generations were suddenly being resolved. Trade disputes were reaching settlements. Territorial conflicts were ending in negotiations. Most puzzling of all, these resolutions seemed to coincide with increased human activity in those regions. Summon Ambassador Chun. He commanded his aide, a floating crystalline being whose harmonics conveyed immediate compliance. When Sarah arrived at the council chambers 3 days later, she found a very different reception than her previous visit. The massive delegates still towered above her from their elevated platforms, but their earlier amusement had been replaced by something resembling curiosity. Your species has been active since our last meeting, Elder Keldthor observed, his translucent form pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that suggested careful consideration. Humans believe in learning through experience, Sarah replied diplomatically. We've been grateful for opportunities to observe galactic civilization and contribute where possible. High Consul Vorthak leaned forward, his molten gold eyes studying her intently. Contributing to the resolution of conflicts that have stymied council mediation for decades? That seems remarkably fortunate for such a primitive species. Sarah maintained her composed expression. We found that fresh perspectives sometimes reveal solutions that weren't apparent to those more familiar with established approaches. The Ethereal Collective's spokesperson shifted its energy patterns in what Sarah now recognized as thoughtful consideration. Perhaps your species is more interesting than initially apparent. Tell me, what do humans hope to gain from these activities? The opportunity to prove our worth as galactic citizens, Sarah answered honestly. We understand that our species must earn its place in this community rather than simply requesting it. It was then that Elder Keldthor made the observation that would change everything. Perhaps we underestimated the potential of your kind. The Council has decided to observe human activities more closely. Sarah nodded respectfully, hiding her satisfaction. Phase 2 was about to begin, and the Council had just given her exactly the opening Earth strategy required. The galaxy's most powerful beings were finally starting to pay attention to humanity. They still had no idea what they were really looking at. The crisis began in the Andorian cluster, a region of space that had been peaceful for over 3,000 years. Without warning, ancient automated defense systems activated across 12 star systems, turning mining operations into war zones and transforming peaceful colonies into fortified bunkers. The weapons were clearly of precursor origin, technology from civilization that had vanished millions of years ago, leaving behind only scattered artifacts that even the Council's greatest scholars couldn't fully understand. High Consul Vorthak stood before the emergency assembly, his massive form radiating heat waves of frustration. Our most advanced fleets cannot penetrate the defensive screens. The Ethereal Collective's energy forms are dissipated by unknown countermeasures. The mechanical collective analysis protocols are being actively jammed by adaptive artificial intelligence systems that learn from each attack. Elder Keldthor's translucent form pulsed with concern as he reviewed the tactical displays floating before the assembled delegates. 3 million beings are trapped within the affected systems. Our attempts at evacuation have been repelled with increasing efficiency. The automated systems appear to be studying our capabilities and adapting their responses accordingly. The Zephyrian delegate's 4 eyes cycled through different spectrum analyses as she studied the data streams. Our deepest reconnaissance flights confirm that the defensive networks are expanding. At current rates, they will encompass 47 systems within one standard galactic cycle. If they continue growing beyond that, they could threaten core worlds. The mechanical collective's representative calculated its optical sensors flickering with rapid processing. Analysis suggests these systems were designed as a containment protocol for an unknown threat. Our presence may have triggered dormant security measures. Ambassador Sarah Chun sat quietly in the observer section, watching the most powerful beings in the galaxy struggle with a problem that defied their traditional approaches. Her earpiece crackled with encrypted communications from the human research vessel Discovery positioned at the edge of the affected zone. Sarah, this is Dr. Webb. We've completed our preliminary analysis of the precursor technology. I think we know what we're dealing with. Report, she whispered, keeping her voice below the threshold of alien hearing. It's not a weapons system. It's a quarantine protocol. Something the precursors considered extremely dangerous was sealed in this region. Our mining operations and exploration activities have been gradually weakening the containment barriers for centuries. The automated systems are trying to rebuild the quarantine before whatever's inside breaks free. Sarah felt ice water in her veins. What kind of threat requires a 47-system quarantine? We're not sure yet, but Dr. Park's team has detected energy readings that match theoretical models for species-class extinction events. Whatever the precursors locked away, they considered it dangerous enough to sacrifice entire star systems to contain. In the council chamber, the debate was becoming increasingly heated. The Thackeray delegation advocated for a massive military assault, arguing that their fire-resistant ships could penetrate the defensive screens through brute force. The Ethereal Collective suggested trying to communicate with the artificial intelligence controlling the systems. believing that beings of pure energy might find common ground with advanced computer protocols. All previous approaches have failed, Elder Keldthor declared, his voice carrying the weight of cosmic authority. Perhaps it is time to consider alternative perspectives. The chamber fell silent. In 10,000 years of council leadership, Keldthor had never publicly acknowledged the limits of traditional galactic powers. You refer to the humans, High Consul Vorthak rumbled, his flames dimming with reluctant consideration. Their recent activities suggest unconventional problem-solving capabilities, Keldthor admitted. Ambassador Chun, does your species have any insights regarding this crisis? Sarah stood, feeling the weight of every alien gaze upon her. This was the moment Earth strategists had prepared for, the point where human involvement shifted from helpful observers to essential participants. Elder Keldthor, honored delegates, humanity requests permission to study the precursor systems directly. Our analysis suggests that understanding the original purpose of these installations is critical to resolving the crisis safely. The Zephyrian delegate's wings rustled with skepticism. What could a primitive species discover that our combined knowledge cannot? Sometimes the most important insights come from those who aren't constrained by existing assumptions, Sarah replied carefully. Human researchers specialize in analyzing systems from first principles rather than relying on established theoretical frameworks. It was a diplomatic way of saying that humans might succeed precisely because they weren't burdened by millions of years of conventional wisdom that might be completely wrong. Elder Keldthor's form pulsed with consideration. Very well. Humanity is granted access to conduct research within the affected zone. However, you will be accompanied by council observers and must share all findings immediately. Within hours, the human research fleet was moving toward the Andorian cluster. The Discovery led a convoy of seemingly modest vessels that carried Earth's most advanced equipment and brightest minds. To alien observers, the human ships appeared fragile and under-equipped compared to the massive warships surrounding them. They had no way of knowing that every human vessel contained technology that pushed the boundaries of current understanding, not through superior materials or energy sources, but through innovative applications of known principles. Dr. Marcus Webb stood on the Discovery's bridge as they approached the first precursor installation, a massive structure that resembled a crystalline flower blooming in the vacuum of space. Each petal was the size of a small moon, covered in geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly. Energy readings indicated power sources that should have been impossible to maintain for millions of years. Captain Torres, take us to scanning range, but maintain minimum safe distance, Dr. Webb ordered. Captain Maria Torres, formerly of Earth's Deep Space Fleet, nodded grimly. All stations report ready. Dr. Park, are your sensors online? Dr. Lisa Park's fingers danced across holographic displays that showed energy patterns unlike anything in known physics. I'm reading quantum fluctuations that shouldn't be possible with current technology. Whatever's powering this thing, it's operating on principles we don't fully understand. But you have theories, Dar. Webb prompted. The energy signatures match hypothetical models for contained singularities, Dr. Park explained to the mixed human and alien crew. If I'm right, each of these installations is powered by a carefully controlled black hole. The precursors were using the most dangerous forces in the universe as simple power sources. The Thackeray observer, Commander Dracoth, stepped forward with obvious skepticism. Impossible. No civilization has mastered singularity control to that degree. The energy requirements alone would consume entire star systems. Unless you weren't trying to control the singularity, Dr. Webb mused, studying the installation's geometric patterns. What if you were using it to control something else? Something that required forces on a cosmic scale to contain. That's when the patterns suddenly made sense. Dr. Park's eyes widened as she ran calculations on her quantum computers. Marcus, these aren't power distribution networks. They're containment field generators. The singularities aren't powering the installations. They're creating gravitational barriers to keep something inside from getting out. Inside what? Captain Torres asked. Dr. Webb pointed to the center of the installation where space itself seemed to bend and twist in impossible ways. Inside folded space. The precursors didn't just build a quarantine around this region. They folded it out of normal space-time entirely. Whatever's in there exists in a pocket dimension that's only connected to our reality through these anchor points. The ethereal collective observer, a being of pure energy contained in a crystalline matrix, vibrated with sudden understanding. The expanding defensive networks aren't trying to rebuild containment barriers. They're trying to prevent the dimensional fold from destabilizing completely, which means our mining operations and exploration activities have been weakening the barriers between dimensions, Dr. Park added grimly. We've been accidentally poking holes in a prison that was never meant to be opened. Commander Drakotha's massive form trembled with implications he was only beginning to grasp. What could require dimensional imprisonment? What threat would justify such extreme measures? Dr. Webb studied the readings streaming across his displays, patterns that suggested something vast and alien stirring in the spaces between realities. Something that the most advanced civilization in galactic history considered too dangerous to simply destroy. Something they thought required eternal containment rather than elimination. As if responding to their growing understanding, the installation suddenly flared with increased activity. The geometric patterns on its surface began shifting and changing, and energy readings spiked to levels that made the surrounding space ripple with gravitational waves. It knows we're here, Dr. Park whispered, her voice tight with fear. Whatever's inside, it's aware that something has changed. The containment protocols are adapting, try to reinforce the barriers, but they're failing, Dr. Webb finished. The question is, how long do we have before whatever the precursors locked away breaks free? The answer came in the form of a low-frequency pulse that propagated through hyperspace, carrying with it a sense of vast intelligence and infinite hunger. Across the galaxy, sensitive beings suddenly looked up at the stars with inexplicable dread, and the Council's most ancient archives began activating emergency protocols that hadn't been triggered in cosmic ages. Humanity had discovered the crisis, but solving it would require capabilities that no single species possessed. It would require the combined knowledge, resources, and determination of the entire galactic community working together for the first time in their history. And at the center of it all, humans would need to prove that their greatest strength wasn't their technology or their individual brilliance, but their ability to unite diverse forces toward a common goal, even when those forces had never trusted each other before. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened as reality itself began showing signs of strain. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy, describing impossible phenomena. Stars flickering out of existence for brief moments before reappearing, gravity waves that followed no known patterns, and space itself developing cracks that revealed glimpses of something vast and hungry lurking beyond. Dr. Marcus Webb stood before the assembled delegates, no longer the dismissed representative of a primitive species, but the bearer of knowledge that could determine the fate of all galactic civilization. Behind him, holographic displays showed the deteriorating situation in the Andorian cluster, where dimensional barriers weakened by the hour. The entity contained within the precursor prison is not simply powerful, Dr. Webb explained, his voice carrying across the crystal chamber with unexpected authority. Our analysis suggests it exists partially outside our reality. It feeds on dimensional energy, growing stronger each time the barriers between realities are weakened. Elder Keldthor's translucent form pulsed with patterns that suggested deep concern. You speak of this being as if it were alive. The precursors sealed away a living entity for millions of years. Not just living, Dr. Lisa Park interjected from her position at the data displays. Intelligent, adaptive, and absolutely hostile to all forms of reality-based existence. We've detected communication attempts directed at our monitoring equipment, mathematical sequences that begin simply but rapidly evolve into concepts that cause our computers to overload. High Consul Vorthack's flames dimmed to barely visible flickers as he processed the implications. A being that thinks in concepts our technology cannot process. How is such a thing possible? Because it doesn't think like us, Sarah Chen answered from her observer's position. This entity appears to originate from a realm where the basic laws of physics function differently. To it, our universe is as alien and incomprehensible as its realm is to us. The difference is that it wants to remake our reality to match its own. The Zephyrian delegates' 4 eyes cycled through visible spectrums before settling on infrared, as if seeking to perceive heat signatures that might reveal deception. Assuming your analysis is correct, what solutions do you propose? The combined might of the galactic fleet has proven ineffective against precursor technology. Dr. Webb exchanged glances with his human colleagues before responding. The solution isn't to fight the containment systems or try to destroy the entity directly. We need to repair and strengthen the dimensional barriers. But that requires a level of coordination and resource commitment that has never been achieved in galactic history. Explain, the mechanical collective's representative demanded, its optical sensors focusing with mechanical precision. Dr. Park activated a 3-dimensional galactic map that showed the affected region and its relationship to surrounding star systems. The precursor containment network was designed as an integrated system spanning 47 star systems. Each installation serves a specific function in maintaining the dimensional fold. Over millions of years, natural decay and our recent mining activities have degraded approximately 30% of the network's efficiency. To restore full containment, Dr. Webb continued, we need simultaneous repairs at 17 critical points throughout the cluster. Each repair operation requires different specialized capabilities. Thackeray heat resistance for installations near stellar cores, ethereal energy manipulation for power matrix recalibration, Zephyrian mobility for installations in unstable asteroid fields, and mechanical collective computational power for system integration. Commander Dracoth stepped forward, his massive stone-like form radiating skeptical heat. You propose that species who have competed for resources and territory for millennia suddenly coordinate their most advanced capabilities in perfect harmony. We propose something that humans have learned is possible when survival is at stake, Sarah replied firmly. We propose that differences become strengths when properly coordinated. The chamber erupted in heated discussions as each delegation considered the unprecedented request. The ethereal collective's harmonic communications created complex melodies of doubt and concern. The Zephyrian delegates spread their wings in agitation, creating patterns of reflected light that spoke of uncertainty. The mechanical collective's representatives calculated probability matrices with visible uncertainty. It was Elder Keldthor who finally restored order. Even assuming such coordination were possible, what guarantee do we have that your analysis is correct? What if strengthening the containment only delays an inevitable catastrophe? Dr. Webb had anticipated this question, because the alternative is certain destruction. Our models show that complete barrier collapse will occur within 72 galactic standard hours. At that point, the entity will have unrestricted access to our dimensional space. Based on its observable behavior patterns, it will immediately begin converting surrounding star systems into dimensional gateways for others of its kind. Others, the ethereal collective's spokesperson pulsed with alarm. The mathematical communications we've intercepted suggest this entity is part of a larger collective. It's been calling to its companions across dimensional barriers for millions of years. If it breaks free, it will open permanent gateways that allow unlimited incursion from its home dimension. The implications settled over the chamber like a suffocating blanket. Every delegate understood that they were facing not just the destruction of current civilization, but the complete transformation of reality itself into something unrecognizably alien. What you propose has never been attempted. High Consul Vorthack rumbled, his flames flickering with uncertainty. The logistical challenges alone. are exactly why humans requested to lead the coordination effort, Sarah interrupted, her small form somehow commanding attention in the vast chamber. Our species specializes in organizing diverse capabilities toward common goals. We've studied each of your civilizations, not to find weaknesses, but to understand strengths that could be combined synergistically. Dr. Webb activated detailed tactical displays showing proposed coordination protocols. The Thackeray fleet will handle installations near stellar cores using their unique heat resistance. Ethereal entities will manipulate energy matrices that require non-physical interaction. Zephyrian wings will provide rapid transit between installations in complex gravitational fields. The mechanical collective will handle system integration requiring computational precision beyond organic capabilities. And humans, the mechanical representative inquired with mechanical curiosity. Humans will coordinate timing, resource allocation, and adaptive problem solving, Dr. Park explained. We'll monitor the overall system status and make real-time adjustments as conditions change. We'll also serve as communication bridges between species whose natural interaction patterns are incompatible. What followed was the most intense negotiation in galactic history. Each species had legitimate concerns about sharing their most advanced capabilities with traditional competitors. Trust networks that had taken millennia to establish were being asked to expand exponentially within hours. Resource commitments that represented centuries of accumulated wealth were being requested for deployment within days. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. The Glorthian delegate, representing the species that humans had recently helped with their independence movement, stood to address the chamber. The humans speak of coordination, but they demonstrate something more valuable. Grootmar's bark-like voice carried surprising authority. They show us that strength comes not from dominance, but from enabling others to achieve their potential. My people have worked with human advisors for months. They do not seek to control or command. They seek to understand and amplify. This endorsement from a previously marginalized species carried unexpected weight. The Glorthians have been dismissed as simple craftspeople for centuries, but their recent artistic achievements had demonstrated capabilities that impressed even the most advanced civilizations. Commander Drakotha's massive form shifted with reluctant consideration. If humans can coordinate Glorthian creativity into galactic recognition, perhaps they can coordinate our diverse capabilities into effective action. The ethereal collective's harmonic patterns shifted toward cautious agreement. Their approach to problem-solving has proven unexpectedly effective in previous interactions. Elder Keldthor raised his translucent hand for silence. The Council faces an unprecedented decision. We can maintain our traditional approaches and watch reality itself be consumed, or we can trust an untested species with coordination of our most critical capabilities. The vote that followed would be remembered for eons. One by one, each major galactic power agreed to place their most advanced assets under human coordination for the greatest rescue operation in cosmic history. It wasn't just about saving the Andorian cluster anymore. It was about preserving the fundamental nature of reality itself. As the emergency fleets began mobilizing across the galaxy, Dr. Webb received a private communication from Earth. Director General Hoffman's image appeared on his secure display, her expression mixing pride with deep concern. Marcus, you've achieved something we never thought possible. The galaxy's most powerful civilizations are trusting humanity with their survival. Don't let them down. We won't, Dr. Webb replied, watching massive Thackeray warships, ethereal energy beings, graceful Zephyrian squadrons, and precise mechanical collective units converging on human coordination vessels throughout the galaxy. But, Patricia, I hope you understand what this means for our species going forward. Explain. After today, we'll never be the dismissed newcomers again. We'll either be the species that saved galactic civilization or the ones who failed when it mattered most. Either way, the universe will never stop watching us. As the greatest rescue fleet in galactic history assembled under human coordination, the entity trapped within dimensional barriers sensed the approaching opposition. Its alien intelligence turned its attention fully toward the barriers that confined it. And, across the galaxy, sensitive beings felt a cosmic presence focusing its vast attention on their reality with malevolent intent. The final battle for the nature of existence itself was about to begin. The assembled fleet stretched across 17 star systems like a constellation of desperate hope. Never before in galactic history had such diverse species worked in perfect coordination toward a single goal. Human coordination vessels positioned themselves at strategic points throughout the formation, their crews monitoring dozens of communication channels simultaneously while managing the complex timing required for success. Dr. Marcus Webb stood on the bridge of the _Discovery_, now designated as the primary coordination hub for the largest rescue operation ever attempted. Around him, holographic displays showed the status of forces distributed across the Andorian cluster. Thrakkery dreadnoughts positioned near stellar installations where their heat-resistant hulls could withstand radiation that would destroy other vessels, ethereal entities flowing through space toward energy matrices that required non-physical manipulation, and Zephyrian squadrons dancing through asteroid fields with grace that made complex navigation look effortless. All stations report ready, Dr. Lisa Park announced from her position at the Master Control Matrix. Dimensional barrier integrity is down to 18% and falling. We have approximately 40 minutes before complete containment failure. Captain Torres studied the tactical displays with the eye of someone who had commanded vessels in Earth's most dangerous regions. The entity's activity levels are increasing. It knows we're here. As if responding to her observation, space itself began to ripple around the central precursor installation. The crystalline structure that resembled a massive flower was now pulsing with energies that hurt to perceive directly. Reality itself seemed to bend and twist around it, creating optical illusions that suggested impossible geometries. It's trying to accelerate the breakdown, Dr. Webb realized, watching the readings spike beyond their instrument's ability to measure. It knows we're planning to reinforce the barriers, so it's throwing everything it has into breaking free before we can complete the repairs. Ambassador Sarah Chen's voice crackled through the communication system from her position on the Council flagship. Human coordination teams, this is Ambassador Chen. The Council has just detected massive energy buildups throughout the cluster. Whatever you're going to do, it needs to happen now. Dr. Webb activated the galaxy-wide coordination network that connected every vessel in the massive fleet. All teams, this is Coordination Central. Operation Pandora's Box is now active. Proceed to assign targets with maximum speed. Remember, timing is critical. We need simultaneous activation of all repair protocols, or the system will cascade into failure. What followed was the most complex coordination effort ever attempted by sentient beings. Across 17 star systems, teams of diverse species worked together in ways their civilizations had never imagined possible. Into their ion system, Commander Dracoth led a formation of Thrakkery battleships into the corona of a blue giant star. Their stone-like hulls, evolved to withstand the heat of their volcanic homeworld, allowed them to approach precursor installations that would have vaporized any other known vessels. As they reached the critical installation points, Thrakkery engineers activated ancient repair protocols using tools designed specifically for their massive, flame-resistant hands. Their ion installation coming online, Dracoth's voice boomed across the communication network. Energy matrix stabilizing at 62% efficiency and rising. Simultaneously, in the void between stars, beings of the ethereal collective flowed through vacuum toward power distribution nodes that existed partially outside normal space. Their energy forms, unbound by physical limitations, could interact directly with precursor technology that operated on principles beyond conventional physics. As they merged temporarily with the ancient systems, their harmonic communications created songs of mathematical precision that recalibrated energy flows throughout the containment network. Power matrices responding. The ethereal spokesperson reported, its communications now carrying undertones of strain that suggested enormous effort. Dimensional anchors stabilizing. Detecting resistance from contained entity, it's fighting the repairs directly. In the asteroid fields of the Corvus system, Zephyrian squadrons demonstrated why they were considered the galaxy's finest pilots. Their ability to see in multiple spectrums simultaneously allowed them to navigate through debris fields that changed constantly as gravitational effects from the destabilizing containment system moved asteroids in unpredictable patterns. With incredible precision, they delivered mechanical collective repair units to installation points that required split-second timing to reach safely. Corvus installation accessed. The Zephyrian squadron leader reported, her voice tight with concentration. Mechanical units deploying. Warning, gravitational fluctuations increasing rapidly. Something is actively trying to prevent our repairs. The mechanical collectives units, delivered by Zephyrian Precision, attach themselves to precursor computational cores with mechanical efficiency. Their advanced processing capabilities allowed them to interface directly with million-year-old artificial intelligence systems, updating security protocols and reinforcing logical barriers that kept the imprisoned entity from corrupting the containment network's governing systems. Computational barriers reinforced, the mechanical representative calculated. Entity attempting to infiltrate repair protocols through dimensional interference. Implementing countermeasures. Success probability fluctuating. Aboard the _Discovery _, Dr. Webb watched readouts from all 17 operations simultaneously, his human brain processing coordination requirements that would have overwhelmed most individual species. This was what humans brought to galactic civilization. Not superior technology or greater physical capabilities, but the ability to see patterns across vast complexity and adapt rapidly as conditions changed. Team 7, your timing is off by 3 seconds, he called out to a Thackeray unit in the Draken system. The ethereal energy flow won't peak until you've completed primary ignition sequence. Wait for my mark. Team 14, gravitational readings show asteroid drift in your target zone. Dr. Park added, coordinating with their opposite numbers across the fleet. Zephyrian Unit Theta, adjust approach vector by 12 degrees starboard to compensate. As the repairs progressed, the entity's response became increasingly desperate. Space around the central installation began developing visible cracks, actual fissures in reality itself, through which glimpses of an alien dimension became briefly visible. What they saw defied description. Landscapes of crystallized time, geometries that existed in too many dimensions, and vast structures that suggested intelligence operating on scales beyond comprehension. Dimensional barriers at critical stress levels, Dr. Park reported, her voice tense with concentration. The entity is throwing everything it has into breaking through. If it succeeds before we complete the repairs. It won't, Dr. Webb said with confidence that surprised him. Look at the coordination efficiency ratings. Every team is exceeding projected performance levels. When you give intelligent beings a clear understanding of what's at stake and show them how their unique capabilities contribute to the solution, they achieve things they never thought possible. Across the galactic fleet, his observation was proving true. Thackeray crews were operating their equipment with precision that exceeded their own technical specifications. Ethereal entities were maintaining energy coherence at levels their species had never sustained before. Zephyrian pilots were executing maneuvers that pushed the boundaries of their incredible natural abilities. The mechanical collective was processing calculations at rates that strained their most advanced systems. All teams status report, Sarah Chen's voice called from the Council flagship. Their ion system repairs at 91% completion, Dracoth reported. Ethereal energy matrices synchronized across all 17 systems. The collective spokesperson harmonized. Final delivery runs completed successfully, the Zephyrian squadron leader confirmed. Computational barriers reinforced and stable, the mechanical representative calculated. Dr. Webb studied the master control displays as data from 17 star systems fed into comprehensive status reports. All systems showing green. Dimensional barrier integrity rising 25%, 30%, 40%. But even as the barrier strengthened, the entity made one final, desperate assault. The central precursor installation suddenly flared with energy that distorted spacetime in a sphere hundreds of kilometers in diameter. Several smaller vessels were caught in the distortion field and simply ceased to exist, not destroyed but edited out of reality as if they had never been built. "It's making a final push," Dr. Parr called out, her displays showing energy readings that shouldn't have been possible. "All barriers are holding, but barely. If it can generate just a little more power." That's when humanity revealed the final element of their strategy. From concealed positions throughout the fleet, human vessels activated devices that no other species had detected during the mission preparation. These weren't weapons or defensive systems. They were resonance amplifiers designed specifically for precursor technology. "Human vessels, activate harmonic reinforcement," Dr. Webb commanded. Suddenly, every human ship in the fleet began transmitting carefully calculated frequency patterns that resonated with the precursor installations. The signals were based on months of careful study of precursor mathematical principles, translated into harmonic sequences that amplified the containment network's efficiency by orders of magnitude. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Dimensional barriers that had been straining against the entity's assault suddenly solidified with strength that exceeded their original design specifications. The cracks in space sealed themselves. The energy distortions around the central installation collapsed back into stable configurations. Barrier integrity at 112% of original strength, Dr. Park announced with disbelief in her voice. "The containment is now stronger than when the precursors first built it." Across the galactic fleet, representatives of every major civilization watched in astonishment as humanity demonstrated that their months of humble cooperation and careful study had yielded understanding of precursor technology that surpassed what the galaxy's greatest minds had achieved in millennia. Elder Keldthor's voice carried across the communication network with something approaching reverence. How did humans acquire such understanding of precursor principles? Dr. Webb looked around at his crew, scientists, engineers, and coordinators who had spent months working alongside alien species, not to impress them with human superiority, but to understand how different forms of intelligence could complement each other. "We learn by listening," he replied simply. "Every species in this fleet contributed pieces to the solution. Thackeray engineering principles, ethereal energy manipulation theory, Zephyrian gravitational mathematics, mechanical computational models. Humans didn't discover how to amplify precursor technology on our own. We learned how to synthesize knowledge that already existed across dozens of civilizations. The realization that followed would reshape galactic civilization forever. The galaxy's most advanced species have been so focused on their individual superiority that they had never considered what might be achieved by combining their diverse capabilities systematically. Humans hadn't succeeded through any inherent advantage. They had succeeded by recognizing that the galaxy's true potential lay not in competition between species, but in coordination between them. As the fleet began standing down from emergency status, the entity's communications suddenly changed. The mathematical sequences that had previously carried threatening implications now transmitted something different, a grudging acknowledgement of worthy opponents. The prison would hold because the galaxy's species had finally learned to work together in ways that even the precursors hadn't anticipated. 6 months later, Ambassador Sarah Chun stood once again before the Galactic Council. But this time, she wasn't addressing beings who saw her as an amusing curiosity from a primitive species. She was speaking to partners who had learned that humanity's greatest gift to galactic civilization wasn't technology or military might, but the ability to help others realize their full potential through cooperation. The Council formally recognizes humanity as a major galactic power, Elder Keldthor announced, his voice carrying throughout the Crystal Chamber. But, more importantly, we recognize that the future of galactic civilization depends not on any single species' achievements, but on our ability to coordinate our diverse strengths toward common goals. High Consul Vorthax flames now burned with warmth rather than intimidation as he addressed Sarah directly. We laughed at humans because we saw only your apparent limitations. We failed to recognize your actual capabilities. That will not happen again. As Sarah left the chamber, she reflected on how far humanity had traveled from those first dismissive encounters. The Council had laughed at humans when they seemed weak and primitive. Now the universe held its breath when humans demonstrated what they could accomplish when trusted with coordination of galactic resources. The greatest underestimation in cosmic history had become the foundation for the most successful cooperation the galaxy had ever achieved. And at the center of it all, humans had proven that sometimes the most important strength isn't the ability to dominate others, but the wisdom to help them dominate themselves.